In his letter to Democratic lawmakers, Biden said he'd heard the concerns about what was at stake in this election and that he knew better than anyone the responsibility and the burden the nominee of the Democratic Party carried into November's election. He reminded members of his party that their nomination process mattered and that voters had spoken clearly and decisively in supporting his presidential candidacy ahead of the formal nomination that will take place at the Democratic National Convention in August. Biden's letter warned members of his party that they had one job, and that was to beat Donald Trump, and that any weakening of resolve or of a lack of clarity about the task ahead only helped his Republican opponent, as he urged members to come together and move forward as a united party. This was Biden on Friday in an exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, when asked if he would stand down if he became convinced that he couldn't beat Trump.
We're not going to do that.
You sure?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'll get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down.
His aggressive posture this week comes after 4 congressional Democrats indicated during a private call over the weekend that the president should step aside and allow someone else to be the party's nominee, with a strong sense expressed on that call that Vice President Kamala Harris would be an obvious choice to replace Biden. But there is now strong pushback from the White House.
What I saw in that debate is not reflective of the man and the leader and the commander-in-chief that I have spent many, many hours with over the last 2.5 years in terms of the specificity of the way he probes, the questions he asks. Heck, just this morning, he was asking me questions about the situation on the European continent that I couldn't answer, and I told him I had to get back to him.
The president also called into a breakfast television show early Monday, venting his frustration at so-called elites in his party and daring them to run against him at the convention. Biden will this week host NATO leaders for a summit in Washington, D.C., where his every move, including a press conference, will be closely watched for any missteps. Congressional Democrats are expected to caucus further on next steps, but Biden has rejected any suggestion for now that he make way for someone else. And he does have the delegates to win the Democratic nomination when the party gathers at its convention next month. And while polling shows that an overwhelming majority of voters believe Biden is too old to seek re-election, his letter suggests, 81 or not, that he has no intention of bowing out gracefully, if at all. Sherwin Ricebees, SABC News, New York.